2. Okay. So hit the chat if you can hear me, just so I know in the Zoom thingy. Yes. Okay. I love when people say yes in chats. That's awesome. Okay. Yes. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Amazing. Okay. I don't think so, but it's probably because let me. Okay. I don't know. Am I showing on screen? I don't even know. Am I showing on screen? Is that what's happening? Yeah, it is. Okay, whatever. I don't like. I'm not that important, right? So I'm just gonna shut this in hopes that it doesn't choke. No, I just don't want it to choke the recording. That's mostly more important to me.
Are you connected to ITC's recording?
No. No, I'm just doing it on my machine. I'll just upload it. I don't care. I don't know the setup. Okay, so should I start?
I think so.
Okay. Let me hit present. Okay, so good. Guys, I want to start, so you let me know if you're if you're into it. If not, it's cool too. All right, so so what we're going to do today is we're going to do a little primer on design, and I'm going to talk a little bit theory. We're going to go through some basics, and then we're going to go actually into a workshop. I'm going to show you a little bit of the Figma UI, how it works, and I'm going to show you a little framework so you can get around, and some other nifty resources that you can use in order to then design and build your own portfolio and then code it up in whatever form you like. So we're going to talk about a few things today as far as theory. First of all, we're going to talk about Otto here. Otto is the person who actually invented sliced bread. He invented it in around 1928. It started making patents. And the sad story of Otto is that he, when he invented the sliced bread machine, he couldn't sell it for 15 years. So 15 years after he invented the sliced bread machine, he couldn't sell that until one dirt company came, bought it dirt cheap from him, and made it like the greatest thing ever. Now, the reason that that happens is that it doesn't matter whatever technology you have in the back end or how clever is your code. If your idea that you're trying to convey does not spread, it will lose. So you have to make ideas that spread. Now, how do you make ideas that spread? We're going to show you a couple of examples here. So we have milk. Like a couple of years ago, there was a company trying to make soy milk. We were trying to break into the market. This is like way back, like around 20 years ago. And they had no idea how to break the market because it wasn't fashionable, it wasn't cool. They were trying to break it a little bit more than the niche market that it had back then. And so they thought about what to do, and they saw milk, and they came up with silk. So people will go into the milk aisle and check out milk, and silk. And they will just like stop them dead, and sales went through the roof. And that's one way of taking something and making it spread, making it something that can stop you, especially if you see, I don't know, like a Facebook feed. That's the same concept. You gotta do something that makes people stop. As long as you got them stopping and looking for a couple of seconds, that's your opportunity to grab them. And that's the same thing with everything that you do, your portfolio and so on. So we'll get into more specific now in shape and color. So this is Dieter Rams. Dieter Rams is a German industrial designer, And he is very much about building things for humans. Now, you recognize all his designs because Johnny Ive basically ripped him off. Him and Jobs completely ripped off his entire work. He was doing design in the 50s, and you can see much more of his work if you go and check out Dieter Rams versus Apple or something. But you'll see that the simplicity and putting just enough stuff in the UI in order for a human to understand what it does and make it work in a simple way is way better than anything else. So when you're designing anything, you should always strive to make things as clear as possible and as understandable as possible, and make as little as possible of drawings or decorations. That's the opposite of design, that's decoration. Decoration is one thing, design is another thing. So this is what you should strive for, making as little as possible and making your messages as powerful as possible. Talking in terms of messaging, we have here David Carson. David Carson is a graphic designer per se, and he has this awesome little quote that says, "Don't mistake legibility for communication." And I'm going to show you a couple of messages and what he means by that. So if you're going by here and you're looking for a place to park, where do you think that you would park? You would park next to the very innocuous little font, or the insane psycho screaming font on the other side? You obviously park where you think that it will be less harmful for you. The same goes here, right? This is very clear who you want your Valentine to be. So that's how a simple thing like a font choice can be very, very powerful in how you're conveying your messages and what are you trying to say. Again, without being over decorative and crazy, insane things going on. Very simply, you can convey messages. And that's another thing, that you don't need to make like crazy designs in order to be effective and good and elegant. And the other thing is when I was in military bootcamp, I had a very a-hole bootcamp platoon leader, and he told me sometimes justice needs to be seen rather than done, because I was an awful soldier. As you probably know, I have a very tough time with authority, but I'm a very good shooter, and I'm a very good intelligence guy. And so I was like not a good order taker. So that's what you always say to me, like, just pretend that you like what you're doing and just go do it. You do a good job. Just don't stop messing around with people. And that point conveys into, if you want to make something cheap, use Bootstrap, use whatever you need to use. You know, go on Dribble, take designs, code them up. You don't have to be the greatest designer in the world. You don't have to be the greatest coder in the world. If you can use a framework. Oh, Sergey. Oh, sorry. Let me get you in. All right. So you don't have to be like the greatest front-end person in the world to make something effective. So, you know, do what you have to do to make it look good, make it look effective. And by that, I mean use Css Grid. Don't use Flex. Flex is awful. This is Grid System. This is a great book by a guy, also German, Joseph Müller-Brockmann. And he invented the idea of using grid systems as a design tool. So if you sometimes get messed how grid works, like the computational CSS grid, you can go to books like this or books inspired by him, and you'll find like very, very detailed all sorts of grid systems that deal with text and deal with all that kind of stuff. And it's very easy to translate all that into to the screen, to UIs with the help of CSS Grid. And that's why you should use CSS Grid, because there's so many learnings that's already been done by graphic design for years and years and years. And one of the greatest tools that you have, it's the 8-point grid. 8-point grid is for now, it's like a basic framework of how people design UIs. So if you are working also in that paradigm, meaning you're coding your CSS and your front UI in this manner, this is going to be very, it's going to make mobile design very easy for you because almost all resolutions divide by 8. So it's very easy. Sometimes you got to use 6, but that's an edge case. And this is going to make your designers very happy that you know about this and that you want to work this way. It's going to make work with them much more smoother. So it's great practice to do it right now.
Can you explain one? I don't know.
Sure.
What is the endpoint grid?
So the endpoint grid and I have a link here, and everything is linked so you can read more about it. But the basic gist is that all your UI elements and all your screens are divided in 8-point grid. And when we go into Figma, I'll show you how to do it, like physically put a grid inside of Figma, and you'll do something that's called snap to grid. So meaning everything will conform to that grid. And so a good spacing between links in the nav menu, it's around like 24 or 32. So you'll go in increments of 8. And that way your UIs are always going to look good. They're always going to look like eye-pleasing. They're always going to look symmetrical. And that's super, super important. It's like, if you're messing up on the colors, if you're messing up on the hierarchy of big titles to small titles, if you go by the 8-point, like you can rarely miss. So your UIs are never going to look boring. They're always going to look good. They'll look decent. So that's without doing any much design. So that's a little shortcut.
Can I say something, or are we on?
No. You just go.
If you ever heard of RAM.
Oh yeah, you should.
Based on
Yes, never. You always use RAM. Awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
RAM is like.
Yes. Don't use pixels unless you have
increments
to.
of 8. So when you're specifying RAM, that's a different.
Yeah,
you're
because.
working with.
So I'll give it a little overview. So the baseline of font size on the browser, it's 16 pixels. And the relative unit of RAM is designed to be, 1 RAM is 16 pixels. So that works great if you're working with the 8-point grid system. So you can go like, your titles are going to be 2.5 RAM. And your H1s and your H2s are going to be 2 RAMs, and your H3 are going to be like 1.8. There's different scales that you can use for that. Actually, maybe I'll include later. There are actually calculators that you can use, like using the golden ratio and all sorts of ratios in order to calculate your typography, and you can make like very nice typographic sets when you're working. It obviously changes from font to font, so you're not using not all the fonts have the same X height. I'm not going to get into typography because it's very like anal. But what you need to know is that every font needs to be weight a little bit different, and you're going to have like different UI looking depending on what font you're using. Also, in that regard, it's important that when you're using line height, use relative measures, like meaning. Line height, you can go like, you can make like an absolute measure, like line height 20 pixels, line height 30 pixels, whatever. But you can give it like also relative measurements, which means like 1.5, right? And you don't give it any measurement. And what it will do, it will take 1.5 of the size of your font, and that will be the line height. So that way, all your text is very fluid and very nice. What an asshole. No, he's awesome. I love Ben. Ben, you're an ass.
Thanks, dude. I love you too.
So let's see some examples because much more interesting than listening to me talk. This is one of my favorite designers, Van Holt Studio. You got to check out this. This is so good. It's all like a CSS and a JavaScript library named GSAP, which is a JavaScript library for motion, but you can see there's a lot of CSS here. And eventually, at the end of the day, there's like very little on the screen. You have some text, you have some links, and that's it. And it's all in the message that eventually you want to convey. So he's conveying a message of like very modern, very minimalistic, very hip. And as you can see, you can deliver all that with very little color, almost no images at all. It's all text, it's all in the motion. And you can see how subtle like the motion is. There's no crazy animations. The animations are subtle, but they're enough. You see that little studio coming up. Very, very, very like well done, very tasteful. And as long as your animations are subdued like that, the more elegant they are, meaning they're more small and little movements, like little tweaks, they look better. And they portray you as a way more user-centric developer, which is super important because especially if you're doing front-end. If you're doing front-end, if you take care more of how users are interacting with your UI, then it's going to make the designers your best friends, the design managers, and that's going to position you in a really good position to lead stuff and to move ahead, especially in the front end. I mean, not only there, but it's going to position you as a very like strong like team player overall. Another example, which is a little bit unorthodox, but again, this is one of my design mentors. This is David Carson's website. And you'll see, this has like a horizontal,
Cool.
yeah, horizontal scroll. Yeah, it's super confusing. This is not proper UI.
If you scroll up and down, but it goes sideways.
Yes, this is not proper UI by any means, but
If you use the trackpad, would you?
no, you need to go up and,
Scroll left, right, yeah.
oh, you need to go left, right. Yeah, you need to,
Cool.
yeah.
So that makes sense.
I've been to websites like this where it's scrolling left, right, but you still have to
Oh,
scroll
so
down and then-
that's probably like a,
With the trackpad you still have?
oh, that's probably like a bad implementation. Yeah, because this makes sense. Yeah, and you can see in his work, he's very, very evocative with text, and it's mainly what he does. And this is like not like a esoteric little weird guy. He's done stuff for Samsung. He's done stuff for Intel. He's done stuff for Swatch, like, yeah, for the Note 8. Very, very cool stuff. I really enjoy his work. And he used to have, let me deviate a little bit from the presentation. And just to show you something really fun. So he used to be the main designer for a magazine called Ray Gun magazine. And he used to make like this kind of stuff. And you see that's like curly braces on her eyebrows. Like really, and it's all like all type. He's really like obsessed with fonts and type and how you organize text to make like powerful messages. And one of the funniest things that he did something, Pads, I think it's called. There was some, okay. So there was a really, to him, a very boring interview with somebody, with Brian Ferry. I don't know if you know Brian Ferry, it's a musician anyway. So the text was so boring to him, so he changed the text to that symbol font in Windows, which basically it's just like little symbols because he thought it was boring. So it's like, just let's make this a piece, and so it's all like it's completely unreadable, but it's great. But
It looks like a book that was written like it's
yeah, it's super awesome, and with the picture of him. It's really great, but it's again a testament to how powerful text can be in design and how you can leverage like text and simple shapes to make very, very powerful things with little to no color. So that's another.
Where is my flying car?
Cool. Yeah, that is true. So a lot of cool stuff from David Carson. Bloomberg, a little more tied down. But you'll see this is amazing. I love this. this is as brutal as it gets as design. This is Bloomberg's website, a very,
It looks like
a very
it's 1990s.
respectable financial website and newspaper and magazine or whatever.
Compared to like the default screens you get with like MSN or something.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, that's
It's cute.
It's not overwhelming.
it's not overwhelming. It's super clean. It delivers the information, like it's actually delivering messages. You need to understand that when you're building a UI, it's not just to put the information out there. It's gotta be usable, because if it's not usable, then people are not gonna pay. If people are not gonna pay, we ain't gonna get no jobs. So it's simple as that. You know, it's awesome to do stuff with Node and React. And that's cool. But if people are not paying for the product and we don't have somebody, either actual users or investor are paying for this, nobody's going to pay. So somebody needs to pay for our MacBooks and you know, organic coffee, whatever.
Our bills.
Yeah, somebody needs to pay the bills. And so this is stuff you need to care. And it's going to make like a greater work environment, again, with the designers. Like designers are going to love you if you care about typography, if you care about that kind of things. And it's going to make your working environment that much more fun, in my opinion, anyway. So you can see even something like Bloomberg, which are very, very serious. They take their design very seriously and they make bold choices, although not a popular one. Okay, so let's go to some inspiration, like actual inspiration that you can go and also grab, like real stuff. So first of all, this is one of my personal favorites. It's called Code Drops, and Code Drops is basically UI experiments. And it can go really, really wild to very practical. And the best thing about it, you can see a demo and you can download the source code. So if you see something here that you want to implement in your portfolio, you can do it really easily. What's this? Experimental transition. So I need to move with my, what should I do? I don't know. It's always like, let's watch this demo. I don't know. Okay. Ooh. It's nice. And you probably have a few experiments here. And it's all, you can, all of them, you can take the source code. This is really wild. This is probably one of something that I'm going to steal for my portfolio. Just going to I'll take a look for a second. And this is so nice. And it's all basically mostly JavaScript.
I've seen this used in a lot of portfolios now.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Popular today and stuff.
Yeah, it's very cool. And what you need to remember is that most of this stuff, and sometimes it will say that they're using like an experimental thing that's not used, that's used on, or either it only works on Chrome or it only works on Firefox. So there is that chance. But on the other hand, we're doing like coding stuff and we're not just doing it for everybody. We're like, our portfolio has a very specific audience, right? Which is hiring managers for development and development people. So they probably have the latest and the greatest in their machines. So it's probably fine to use whatever you can find here.
How complex is it? Like, is it not too complex? Like,
oh, you can just check out, honestly, it really depends, but you can check out the source code and we can open up one if you want. Just see what's going on there. Let me show the folder. What should I do? Let's take a look. I honestly don't know. But we try, you know. This is my favorite part of coding, just exploring stuff. And let's see. Okay, so we have a source folder. We have a base CSS here, which is okay. Let's see. Yeah.
It's the whole website.
Yeah. But you can see they're using stuff like before and after just to load different things. You have some, oh, this is custom. This is native CSS, by the way. This is just like custom variable. So no, this is custom variables. So custom variables are these ones. Yeah. So root. Okay. So you see here that the thing that says root font size. These are variables, meaning just like basically just like JavaScript. You're holding like a value, and then you can use it throughout your code.
Another variable colored text.
Yeah, so everything here is a variable, and then you can go and use them here. You see background var color bg. So basically it's this one, right? So this is really new CSS. It's valid, you can use it everywhere. But this is coming to replace stuff like Sass, if you know Sass. Ben's the waiting room. Why is it the waiting room? I don't know. Whatever.
Ben, come on.
Do you have to install something to do that? Or
No, you don't have to install anything to do that. This is not, you don't need like any special thing to do it. This is just like a native CSS. It's really nice. The syntax is a bit cumbersome because you need to use the var and the double dashes in front of stuff, and it's not as clean as it could have been, but it is what it is for the moment. But at least you can use it natively, and you don't need anything. Here they're using grid, and you can really like learn a lot when you're looking at this kind of stuff. You see how they're positioning things with grid. This is very cool. Yeah, so because they're dividing the page into a huge grid. You see like 26, 28.
What's
So,
the JavaScript look like?
let's see, I don't know. They're using GSAP, which is that library that I told you. And you can see everything is well documented here. So it's really, so it's really like easy to understand, and you can easily manipulate that. Just basic vanilla JavaScript on everything. And when they're using GSAP, probably using just a little bit more advanced stuff, but nothing more than that. Just standard CSS, a bunch of stuff. So yeah, so that's something that you could easily go and use. Let's see, what else do I have here? And Brutalist website. So Brutalist websites, it's a collection of sites that are very much brutalist, which is like very in your face, very non aesthetically pleasing for the most part. Site. I love them. This is one of my favorite sites on the internet, but it's not everybody's cup of tea, I realize. But you can see here people really expressing themselves with code, which is the most important thing, an interesting thing to me. So you can look like very commercial stuff like Travis Scott, and you can see very niche and weird stuff. But it's all like great use of like visual stuff, and in the end, just web technologies and how you use them to convey like whatever you want to say. So this is very nice if you want to make something that's a little bit more personal and it's not like cookie cutter portfolio type stuff. So you can go really wild on this. Let me close it because it never ends loading and it's a pain in the ass. Okay, so we're in the resources part, and here can I copy this? Copy the address. I want to drop this in the notes. What is notes? No, I do not want notes. How do I get to the chat?
Yeah, chat.
Oh yeah. So I'm just gonna drop the link here in the chat. This is a, what is this? I don't know what this is. This is a Figma file. Figma files, and this is why I love Figma, because you can use it in the browser. Everything works. You don't need to install anything. This is a very clean like a wireframe kit that you can start using just to position things in general. Wireframes are very widely used. So just because it's quicker, it's cleaner, and you don't have to install anything. A preference, you can go with the desktop. It's based on Electron, so it will be a little bit slower at times. It will choke on time. So it's my preference and my experience has been always better on the browser. Yeah, it tends to choke a little bit. I don't like it. It's because it's not a native. It's just like a browser wrapping the web app, so it doesn't matter. So you can use that, like in general, if you're like, you know, wireframing ideas, or you have like an idea, you want to start making things without worrying about design, you can use something like this. It'll be there. You have a link here. You have this one called Figma Team. I don't know what this is. I just found it this morning. There's a bunch of stuff here. There's like resumes and characters, like a bunch of things that you can grab. And just to get more into Figma, like I use Figma for everything, for graphic design, for logos, for everything. This is another little addition that I wanted to give you guys. There's 11T, which is a static site generator. A static site generator is basically some sort of like a framework that eventually will spit out HTML and CSS files, like static files that you can host anywhere. And so if you have a project which is like a very static site with a little form, nothing too fancy, and you just want to deploy fast, you can use something like 11T, which is all JavaScript based. It's very easy to set up. Especially since you want to do stuff that's good with SEO, because I don't know why we didn't touch on this, but Create React App is awful with SEO. Once you build your pages with the Create React App, it will just spit out this weird skeleton HTML into the browser, and then no crawler can crawl through that. No SEO crawler, not Google, not anybody can crawl through that. So if you're making something that is commercial, you need to address SEO, and you need to address all that stuff like sharing images. SEO is search engine optimization. And so if you want people to know your site and to be able to share it and have the little images on social media and whatever, and have some sort of potential more people sharing and going into your sites, you need to take care of your SEO. So you need to do server-side rendering, which means either spitting out static files and taking care of the SEO over there, or you can use something like Next.js, which is a framework built on top of React. And what it'll give you a little inner server inside of the app, and it will allow you to do server-side rendering, and then you can take care of the SEO. So if you want to do a little bit more freeform and less React-based, you can use 11T. Or if you want to stay in React land and do that kind of thing, you can use Next.js, and they have like special components for the head and for SEO and routing and all that stuff. So it's very, very, very complete. You need to worry about just about anything regarding building like a commercial app. So, and also it has like an inner server. So if you need to do like, you need to have like a little node server to do routing or do fetching for exterior stuff, you can literally inside of the, of your next app, you can make another folder called API and just write your server right there. And then you can deploy to Heroku or whatever. So that's really useful because you don't need like two different deploys. You can deploy to one place and take care of everything in one place, which is great. This is a link for a site, for a YouTube video, not for a site, for a YouTube video that shows you like 3 projects. And I chose it because I think it really represents what really needs to be on the portfolio, which is a crop project, meaning something like Hogwarts, but a little bit more cohesive. Like you go, there's a page, you register, you log in, you take users, you add users, you delete them, move them around, you edit users, whatever, that kind of thing. An e-commerce project could be like a little t-shirt site, something that integrates with Stripe, something that integrates with anything that has to do with paying inside of the website. They'll give you the experience with dealing with SSL, dealing with authorization, dealing with actual money transfers, which is important for a lot of jobs. Like you need to know how to do that, and it's a good practice. And knowing that it's good because you can also like freelance with that fairly easily, especially when stuff with like Shopify, if you're building things or entire website based on Shopify, if somebody has a Shopify store and they want to make a little React app out of that, that could be very helpful to have that in your portfolio. And the third one is an API-based like weather app, crypto, watcher app, that kind of thing, just to have the ability to show that you can work with APIs on a regular. So that's a cool little video. Another little thing here is DevSwitch. It's a site that I'm building right now. And I thought you guys might be interested because one of the things that I'm planning to do there is take designers who have little to no experience and match them with developers with little experience and do some sort of exchange. Like you will code something for them and they'll design stuff for you. And that's a little thing that I want to start doing. And I thought it might be useful for people. And so I'm going to get a page soon up. I'm building it now. And yeah, I'll let you know once I have a page that you can register. Obviously, it will be for free and then I'll be more of a people helping people type thing. Do I have something else? No, okay, awesome. So let's get to actual work and stop babbling. So I'm gonna leave the deck now, and we're gonna get into Figma. Okay, so let me get into my files here. All right, so I'm going to, let me see. This is a UI kit named RevKit. It's very, let me see if I quickly Google it because I don't know where I left the link. Yes, yes, okay. So you can download this from here. This is free. And what you can do is get, let's see. Where is it? Okay, so you can click here on Figma and they'll take you to your own Figma account. I don't know if you're like logged in or not. It'll ask you to log in and then you can duplicate that and you'll be able to start working on, why is it not doing the thing? On the project. So I'm just gonna stop here just to, if anybody has questions, now it's the time. You know, yeah.
You said about the default React creating a behavior is doing a bad job to like doing a bad skeleton, right? Did I get it right?
The issue is the issue with Create React App is that it doesn't, because it's all dynamic rendering, so it won't output anything unless you tell it beforehand. Mm-hmm. And since most of the time you're not telling it to render anything meaningful right away, mm-hmm. So it will just basically render the entry point. And so only when they start to make like interactions, then it will start to render out stuff. So that means that if a crawler goes to your site, yeah, like a bot, like a Google bot crawler, it won't find anything because he won't trigger anything. So you want all you find the little app div, and that's it. So that will kill your SEO. So you have to have something beyond that. That's why when you would see a lot of sites have like their main site, and they'll have like a subdomain with app dot blah blah blah, because they don't care about SEO over there inside of the app, but they do care about SEO in general. So they'll have like a little static site that has whatever marketing things they need to. But when you go into logging into the app, it will be like a separate instance of that app that has nothing to do with SEO or whatever.
Another question.
Sure.
Sometimes when I see the library, some very good library, they actually use SCSS instead of CSS. I see the code format rather than that kind of page format. So is it necessary in order to have a good design? Should we also master SCSS?
So no, it's a good question. Sass is basically an industry standard, so you should know how to work with it. It is super useful when working with large frameworks, because what will happen if you're working on an existing project, like an existing large project, there's probably a component library, and that component library contains like a bunch of Sass files that you need to get familiar with. Like if you're using a button, you'll do like, they have something called mixins, which are basically like a cluster of CSS declarations, like a button, what a button looks like, and you'll have like a bunch of classes attached to it, and that will be a mixin. And so you should familiarize with yourself with it, because people work with this on a regular basis. But you need to remember that eventually you can write regular CSS inside of Sass. And there's very specific things like, I know, like writing your breakpoints, right? When you're writing like, like responsive stuff, right? Then you usually will write your breakpoints inside of the CSS that you're actually writing. You can't do that with CSS, but you can do that with Sass, so that's helpful. You write your different states with Sass, that's helpful too. And eventually it's a tool that a lot of people work with, just like Bootstrap, so you need to familiarize with yourself with it. But it's not something, it's not like a complete, like, it's not like a programming language altogether. So it's just like a set of conventions of how to write that specific thing. But it's really not something too rough.
And it's okay to mix SCSS with native CSS.
Yeah. So people do it all the time, just because Sass, it's only like helper things to, again, it's like writing your breakpoints inside of the same CSS module.
But I think you're talking about SCSS, not Sass.
So Sass has two types of syntax. You have the Sassy syntax and the SCSS syntax. Yeah, it's ironic too. So the Sassy syntax, it looks very much like Python, if you can imagine. Like everything is almost like optional, and it's almost indent based. So you can write like without semicolons and close curly braces and open. You can, like, all that's almost optional. But you need to be careful of your indenting. Not a lot of people use that syntax just because it's confusing for people, new people coming into the code bases. And most people just use the SCSS syntax, which is like regular CSS. So it's not too confusing. So there used to be like an issue back in the day, but now I don't know anybody like commercially using Sass. Maybe like some side projects and stuff like that. Okay, so if, let me see if the chat and anybody needs to say anything. What?
Just what Kelly's question was.
Oh, you mean Kelly's question? Oh, she was talking about the different syntax of Sass and SCSS. And the basic gist is you don't need to care. Like SCSS is what 99% of the people use, so you just use that. Okay, cool. So anybody, anything else? Nah, we cool?
Can you send us the presentation?
Yeah. I'm gonna put a link there, and you can see all the links there. And yeah, so I'm just gonna stop. Should I stop? Yeah, I'm gonna stop the recording for sure because it's completely unnecessary. I'm just gonna leave the Zoom open. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna talk through me designing something. So if you wanna do this along with me, awesome. If you have any questions, I'm gonna keep the chat open.
On Figma, right?
Yeah.
Something about tribal,
You're gonna have to refresh my memory because I don't remember what I said. But anyway, I'm okay, cool. So I'm just gonna I'm just gonna close the recording for anybody on Zoom, and I'm gonna get into talking my way through designing something. So yeah. Okay, let's go. So let me see, how do I stop the recording? How do I stop the recording?